The stars looked peaceful through the viewing window of the HSS Wanderer. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, watching the endless dark of space. His ship moved slowly through the outer edges of the solar system, near Jupiter's orbit. It was a routine patrol, the kind they had done 100 times before. Jake was 38 years old and had been commanding scout ships for 10 years. He liked the quiet work. No drama, no wars, just watching the space around Earth and making sure everything was safe. His crew was small, only 43 people, but they were good at their jobs. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Lieutenant Sophie Grant from her station. She was the tactical officer, a young woman with sharp eyes and quick fingers on the controls. "There are ships coming in from beyond Jupiter, big ones." Jake sat up straight. "How many?" 12 contacts, sir. "They're not human design. I've never seen anything like them." Sophie's voice was steady, but Jake could hear the tension there. This was it. The moment humanity had been preparing for but never actually experienced. Alien contact. Jake felt his heart beat faster, but he kept his voice calm. "Sound general quarters. Wake up everyone who's sleeping. Get me Admiral Hayes on the quantum link." The ship came alive with activity. Crew members rushed to their stations. The lights changed from soft white to alert blue. Engineer Kyle Martinez appeared on the bridge, looking worried but ready. "Sir, should I power up the weapons?" Sophie asked. "Not yet. Let's see what they want first." Jake watched the tactical display as the 12 alien ships approached. They were huge, each one at least 3 times the size of the Wanderer. Their design was strange, with curved hulls and odd angles that didn't match human engineering. The communication system crackled to life. A face appeared on the main screen, and Jake had to stop himself from staring. The alien had purple skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. It wore some kind of military uniform covered in medals and symbols. "Primitive vessel, you will surrender immediately," the alien said. The translation software worked perfectly, making the alien's words clear in English. "I am Prince Calthur of the Valorian Empire. Your planet is now under our protection. Resistance will be met with destruction." Jake looked at Sophie, then at Kyle. They both looked as shocked as he felt. He turned back to the screen and tried to keep his voice diplomatic. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Scout Service. We mean no harm. I need to contact my government before I can respond to your demands." Prince Calthur laughed. The sound was harsh and mocking. "You need permission? This proves your weakness. You have one of your Earth minutes to comply, or we will fire on your ship." The screen went dark. Jake immediately hit the emergency channel to Earth. "Admiral Hayes, this is Wanderer. We have hostile alien contact. 12 warships demanding our surrender. Requesting instructions." There was a delay, even with quantum communication. Those few seconds felt like hours. Finally, Admiral Hayes appeared on a smaller screen. She was a tough woman in her 50s, with gray hair and hard eyes. "Morrison, buy us time. We're scrambling the defense fleet, but they're hours away. Do not surrender your ship. If they attack, defend yourself and retreat. That's an order." "Yes, ma'am." Jake cut the connection and looked at his crew. "You heard the Admiral. Sophie, bring weapons online, but don't target them yet. Kyle, I need every bit of speed you can give me. We might have to run." 50 seconds had passed. Jake opened a channel to the alien prince. "Prince Calthur, I've contacted my government. They're sending diplomats to negotiate. Please hold your position." The prince's face reappeared and he looked angry. "You dare to make demands? Learn your place, human." He made a gesture, and the screen cut off. "Captain, they're charging weapons," Sophie shouted. "One of their ships is firing." A beam of bright green energy shot across space toward the Wanderer. It was meant as a warning shot, passing just in front of their bow. But the ship's automatic defense system didn't care about warnings. It registered an attack and responded instantly. The Wanderer's point defense cannons opened fire. Small but precise railgun rounds shot out, moving at incredible speed. They hit the alien ship that had fired, tearing into its hull. Explosions blossomed along its side. "Cease fire," Jake ordered, but it was too late. The automatic system had already done its job. The alien ship was badly damaged, sparks and atmosphere venting from multiple holes. "Sir, all 12 ships are targeting us now." Sophie's hands flew over her controls. "They're all firing. Evasive maneuvers." "Kyle, emergency power to engines. Sophie, return fire at will." Jake gripped his chair as the ship lurched into motion. The Wanderer was small, but it was fast. It twisted and turned through space like a dancer, avoiding most of the alien weapons fire. A few hits got through, making the ship shake and groan. But Sophie was just as fast, targeting the alien ships with careful precision. 2 more alien ships took heavy damage from the Wanderer's guns. The human weapons were designed to punch through armor with raw kinetic force. The alien shields seemed to slow the rounds down, but they didn't stop them. "We can't win this fight," Jake said, making the hard decision. "Set course for the asteroid belt, full speed." The Wanderer ran. The 12 alien ships, now down to 10 effective vessels, followed close behind. They fired continuously, their green energy beams lighting up the dark of space. Most missed, but some hit, each impact weakening the scout ship's shields. "Hull breach on deck 3, Kyle reported. "Sealing it now." "Shields at 60% and falling?" They reached the asteroid belt, and Jake smiled grimly. This was home territory. Every scout captain knew these rocks like the back of their hand. "Sophie, target the big asteroid at Mark 7. "Blow it as we pass," Sophie understood immediately. She fired at a massive asteroid as the Wanderer flew past it. The rounds shattered the rock, sending huge chunks spinning into the path of the pursuing aliens. 2 alien ships couldn't dodge in time. They crashed into the debris, their hulls crumpling like paper. 3 down, 9 to go, Sophie said. For 6 hours, they played a deadly game of cat and mouse through the asteroids. The Wanderer used every trick Jake knew. They hid behind large rocks, ambushed pursuing ships, and used the chaotic environment to their advantage. The alien ships were bigger and stronger, but they moved like freight trains. Slow and predictable. Kyle worked miracles in the engine room. Every time something broke, he fixed it. When they needed more power, he found it somehow. When the shields failed, he rerouted emergency power to get them back online. Sophie fought like a master. She hit weak points on the alien ships, targeting their engines and weapons. Every shot counted, every hit mattered. 3 more alien ships were destroyed, and 2 more were damaged so badly they had to fall back, but the Wanderer was dying. Hull breaches covered every deck. The engines were running on backup power. Life support was failing in sections. They were down to 4 alien ships still chasing them, but Jake knew they couldn't run anymore. "Captain, we're trapped," Sophie said quietly. The 4 remaining alien ships had boxed them in against a large asteroid. There was nowhere left to run. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were exhausted, scared, but still ready to fight. He was proud of them. "Listen up, everyone. We did good. We lasted 6 hours against 12 alien warships. We took down 7 of them. That's going to give Earth valuable intelligence." He opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain." "Abandon ship? Get to the escape pods? That's an order." "Sir, we can still fight," Sophie protested. "No, I need you all alive to tell Earth what happened here. Tell them about these aliens. Tell them how we fought." Jake started entering commands into his console. "I'm setting the self-destruct. When the pods are clear, the Wanderer is going to take a few more of these bastards with her." The crew didn't want to go, but they followed orders. One by one, they left their stations and headed for the escape pods. Kyle was the last to leave the engine room, tears in his eyes. Sophie stayed on the bridge until Jake physically ordered her to go. "Take care of the crew, Lieutenant," Jake said. "You're in command now," Sophie saluted. "It's been an honor, sir. The honor was mine." Jake watched her leave, then sealed the bridge door. He looked out at the 4 alien ships closing in. "Come on then, let's finish this." The escape pods launched, their small engines pushing them away from the battle. The alien ships ignored them, focused on the Wanderer. Prince Kelther's voice came over the communication channel one last time. "You fought well, human, but you still lose," Jake smiled. "Maybe, but you'll remember us." He hit the self-destruct button. The Wanderer's reactor went critical instantly. The explosion was massive, a small sun blooming in the darkness of space. The 4 alien ships were too close. 2 were caught directly in the blast and vaporized. The other 2 were thrown back, their hulls crushed by the shockwave. Prince Kelthor's flagship survived, but barely. Half his fleet was gone, his ship was damaged. And all from one small human vessel. In the escape pods, Sophie and the crew watched the explosion through their small windows. They cried for their captain and their ship, but they also felt something else, pride. They had fought aliens and made them pay dearly for every meter of space. The Valorian homeworld was celebrating. Prince Kelthor stood on the balcony of the Imperial Palace, watching fireworks explode in the purple sky. His people cheered below, happy about his great victory against the humans. He smiled and waved, but inside he felt uneasy. 7 ships. He had lost 7 ships out of 12, more than half his fleet. All to destroy one small human vessel. The thought kept nagging at him, but he pushed it away. Victory was victory. The humans had been defeated. Inside the Great Hall, the Imperial Council gathered. They were the most powerful Valorians in the Empire, leaders of the military and government. Prince Kelthor walked among them, accepting their congratulations. His father, Emperor Vexenar, sat on the golden throne, watching with calculating eyes. "My son has proven himself in battle," the Emperor announced. The humans resisted, but they fell before Valorian might. "This new species will be a valuable addition to our empire." Princess Lyricith, Kelthor's older sister, stood to the side. She was the Empire's chief military strategist, a position earned through intelligence and skill. While everyone celebrated, she was reviewing the battle recordings on a data tablet. Her face grew more concerned with each passing minute. "Brother," she said, approaching Kelthor, "I need to speak with you privately." "Not now, sister. Can't you see we're celebrating?" Kelthor was drinking wine, feeling good about himself. "It's important, please." Her voice was urgent. They moved to a quiet corner of the hall. Lyricith showed him the tablet. "Look at this. The human vessel's tactical responses. They adapted to our weapons within minutes. They used the environment perfectly. They targeted our weakest points with precision. So? They still lost." Kelthor was annoyed. "They fought us for 6 hours. 1 ship against 12. 7 of our vessels destroyed or crippled." Lyriceth's 4 eyes looked directly at her brother. "That's not normal. In our past conquests, entire fleets surrendered when they saw our power. These humans fought to the death. They were desperate and lucky," Kelthor said, "or they were skilled and determined." Lyricith swiped the tablet screen. "Look at this. The human captain sacrificed himself to destroy more of our ships. That's not the action of a desperate primitive. That's the action of a trained warrior." "You worry too much, sister." Kelthor took the tablet and closed it. "The humans are weak. They sent 1 ship against us? 1. That proves they have no real military. When we invade with a proper fleet, they will fall in days." "I recommend caution," Lyricith said. "We should send scouts. Learn more about them before committing to invasion." But the Emperor had already made his decision. He stood from his throne and the room fell silent. "The Council has voted. We will assemble an invasion fleet. 300 warships. The largest force we have ever deployed. We will crush the humans and claim their star system for the Valorian Empire." The room erupted in cheers. Lyricith looked at her brother, who was smiling and accepting congratulations again. She felt a cold weight in her stomach. Something was very wrong about all of this, but no one would listen. Far across the galaxy on Earth, the mood was very different. Lieutenant Sophie Grant stood in a briefing room at Earth Defense Command, surrounded by admirals and generals. She had told her story 3 times already, but they wanted every detail. "The alien weapons were energy-based," Sophie explained, pointing to a holographic display. "They had shields that slowed down our kinetic rounds but didn't stop them. Their ships were big but not very maneuverable. They fought in rigid formations and didn't adapt when we changed tactics." Admiral Karen Hayes sat at the head of the table, listening carefully. She was in charge of all Earth's military forces, and her face showed the weight of that responsibility. How many ships did you estimate they had in total? The prince said he commanded 12 warships, ma'am. We destroyed 7 and damaged 2 more. That left him with 3 functional vessels when we retreated. Sophie paused. But he mentioned an empire. If they're an empire, they probably have many more ships. Indeed they do, said General Peter Collins, head of the Space Marines. Our long-range sensors detected their departure. They're going home, likely to report and resupply. He looked around the room. Gentlemen, ladies, this is what we've prepared for. First contact with a hostile alien species. The room buzzed with discussion. Some officers argued for immediate retaliation. Others wanted to build more defenses and wait. Admiral Hayes raised her hand for silence. We will do both, she said firmly. General Collins, I want Marines ready for boarding actions. Admiral Yu, get the orbital defense platforms online. Commander Chun, you're in charge of overall battle strategy. Commander Lisa Chun stepped forward. She was 45 years old and had spent her entire career studying military history. She had been a young officer during the Mars Rebellion 20 years ago, where humans fought humans in the first major space conflict. She understood how war worked in the vacuum of space. Ma'am, we have advantages the aliens don't know about, Lisa said. They think the Wanderer was our best ship. They think we're weak. We can use that. Explain, Admiral Hayes ordered. Lisa activated the holographic display showing the solar system. The Wanderer was a scout ship designed for long patrols with minimal crew. We have over 3,000 ships of that class. But we also have dedicated warships, cruisers, battleships, carriers, ships designed specifically for combat, not exploration. She zoomed in on Earth's orbit. We have 200 warships currently stationed around Earth, not scout ships. Real military vessels. Each one is twice the size of the alien's biggest ship, with more armor, more weapons, and better engines. That's not counting the ships at Mars, Venus. And the outer colonies, added Admiral Yu. If we recall them all, we can field over 600 combat vessels. Sophie watched the presentation with wide eyes. She had known Earth had a military, but she had never seen the full scope of it. The Wanderer had been her whole world, a small ship doing quiet work. Now she was seeing the true power of human civilization. The aliens will come back, Lisa continued. They'll bring more ships, expecting easy conquest. We'll let them think they're winning at first. We'll put up a fight with our scout and patrol ships, make it look convincing. When they're committed, when they think victory is certain, we'll reveal our true strength. Admiral Hayes nodded slowly. A trap, I like it. But it's risky. We'll be exposing our people to danger. War is risk, ma'am, Lisa said. But if we show our full power immediately, they might retreat and come back with even more ships. Better to end this decisively. The discussion went on for hours. Plans were made and revised. Ships were repositioned. Crews were trained. Earth, Mars, and all the human colonies prepared for war. Factories that made civilian goods were converted to military production. Shipyards worked around the clock, building new vessels and repairing old ones. Sophie was given a new assignment. She was promoted to tactical coordinator and assigned to Admiral Hayes' flagship, the HSS Defiant. It was the largest warship in the human fleet, 3 times the size of the Wanderer. Walking its corridors made Sophie feel small. Kyle Martinez was also promoted. He became chief engineer on the Defiant, responsible for keeping the massive ship running. When he saw Sophie in the hallway, they hugged like old friends. Feels wrong being on such a big ship, Kyle said. The Wanderer was home. The Wanderer is gone, Sophie said sadly. But we're still here, and we're going to make those aliens pay for what they did. They found the other survivors of the Wanderer scattered throughout the fleet. Each had been given important positions, their experience fighting the aliens making them valuable. The crew stayed in contact, a small family bound by shared loss. Captain Jake Morrison was declared a hero. There was talk of naming a new ship after him. His sacrifice had given Earth critical intelligence and time to prepare. Sophie made sure to visit his family, to tell them how brave he had been at the end. Weeks passed. Sensors watched the edge of human space constantly. Everyone knew the aliens would return. It was just a question of when, on the Valorian homeworld, preparations were also underway. Prince Kelthor was given command of the invasion fleet. 300 warships, the pride of the Empire. He stood in the command center of his new flagship, watching the fleet assemble in orbit. It was beautiful and terrifying. Princess Lyrasith was assigned as military observer, officially to record the conquest for the Empire's history. Unofficially, their father wanted her there to keep Kelthor from making mistakes. She accepted the assignment but continued reviewing the battle data from the first encounter. The more she studied it, the more worried she became. The human ship had been damaged before the fight even started, running on reduced power. Yet it had fought like a cornered predator, striking hard and fast. What would humans do when they weren't surprised? When they were ready? She tried to talk to her brother one more time before the fleet departed. Kelthor, please listen. Something doesn't add up. Why would the humans only send one ship? Why was it so far from their planet? What if it wasn't their military at all? You're afraid, sister? Kelthor said dismissively. Perhaps you should stay home with the other females who lack warrior spirit. Lyrasith's eyes narrowed. I have commanded more victories than you. The Valorian fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of human space. 300 warships spread out in a massive formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. Prince Kelthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, feeling confident and powerful. Begin scanning for human vessels, he ordered. The sensors officer worked quickly. After a moment, he looked up with surprise. Your Highness, I'm detecting a large number of ships ahead. At least 200 contacts. Kelthor laughed. The humans have gathered their entire fleet to meet us. How desperate. He turned to his tactical officer. Compare these ships to the one we fought before. The officer studied the data. Similar size and design, Your Highness. They appear to be the same class of vessel. Perhaps slightly larger, but not significantly. See, sister? Kelthor looked at Princess Lyrasith, who stood nearby with a worried expression. They have nothing more than what we already defeated. 200 ships against our 300. The mathematics favor us. Lyrasith studied her own tactical display. The human ships were arranged in a defensive formation spread across a wide area of space. It looked like a standard defensive line, the kind any species might use to protect their home. But something felt wrong. Brother, why would they position all their ships here? She asked. If this is their entire fleet, why not keep some in reserve? Why not have ships protecting their planet directly? Because they're primitives who don't understand warfare, Kelthor said dismissively. He opened the communication channel to the human fleet. Human vessels, this is Prince Kelthor of the Valorian Empire. You are vastly outnumbered. Surrender now, and your people will be treated fairly as subjects of the Empire. On the HSS Defiant, Admiral Karen Hayes received the message. She looked at Commander Lisa Chun and Sophie Grant, who both stood ready at their stations. Well, he certainly is confident, Hayes said dryly. Should we respond, ma'am? Asked the communications officer. Yes, let's be polite. Hayes activated the channel. This is Admiral Hayes of the Earth Defense Fleet. You attacked one of our ships without provocation. You murdered our people. We don't negotiate with murderers. If you want Earth, you'll have to take it. She closed the channel and turned to her crew. All ships engage at will. Make it look good, but follow the plan. We're not trying to win yet. We're trying to make them believe they can. The battle began. The 200 human ships opened fire first, their weapons lighting up the darkness of space. The Valorian fleet responded, their green energy beams cutting through the void. Ships on both sides shook from impacts, shields flaring as they absorbed damage. Sophie coordinated the tactics from her station. All ships, execute pattern Delta, hit their left flank, then fall back. Make them chase us. The human ships moved with practiced precision. They attacked, inflicted damage, then retreated before the Valorians could respond effectively. It was the same strategy the Wanderer had used, but now on a fleet-wide scale. Small groups of human ships would dart in, fire, and disappear before the slower Valorian vessels could target them properly. Kelthar watched his tactical display with growing frustration. The humans were fighting well, better than he had expected. Their ships were fast, and their captains seemed to know what they were doing. But his fleet was larger. Numbers would win eventually. "Push forward," he commanded. "Overwhelm them with our superior force." The Valorian fleet advanced. More human ships took damage. Some were destroyed, their hulls torn apart by concentrated fire. Others retreated, trailing atmosphere and debris. But Lyraseth noticed something strange. "Brother, look at this," she said, pointing to her screen. "Every time we destroy a human ship, another one takes its place. Their numbers aren't decreasing. They're rotating fresh ships into the battle," Kelthar said. "It doesn't matter. We're inflicting more damage than they are." But that wasn't quite true. The humans were learning with each engagement. They were studying Valorian tactics, finding weaknesses, exploiting them. Sophie's tactical coordination improved with every passing hour. She identified which Valorian ships had weaker shields, which commanders were more aggressive, which formations had gaps. "Target the ship at coordinate 774, she instructed a group of human cruisers. "Its port shield is down 15%. The cruisers struck hard and fast. The Valorian ship took critical damage, forced to fall back. Sophie marked it on her display and moved to the next target. This was what she was good at: finding patterns, exploiting advantages, turning small openings into victories. Captain Jake Morrison, newly promoted and given command of the HSS Vigilant, led a squadron of 15 ships. He had been given this command specifically because of his experience fighting the Valorians. He knew their tactics, their weaknesses, their psychology. "Stay loose," he told his squadron. "Don't bunch up. Keep moving. Make them waste ammunition chasing you." His ships danced through space, avoiding most of the enemy fire. When they did strike, they hit hard, targeting engines and weapon systems. Morrison remembered his last ship, the Wanderer, and the crew he had lost. Every shot he fired was for them. Kyle Martinez worked in the Defiant's engineering section, managing the ship's power systems. The Defiant wasn't engaging directly yet. It sat back with the other capital ships, pretending to be the last line of defense. But Kyle kept everything ready. When the time came to reveal their true power, this ship would be ready. Hours passed. The battle raged across a huge area of space. Wreckage floated everywhere, pieces of both human and Valorian ships. The humans were taking casualties, but not as many as the Valorians expected. And more importantly, the human crews never panicked. They never broke formation. They fought with a discipline that puzzled the Valorian commanders. "Why don't they break?" asked one of Kelthar's officers. "We've destroyed dozens of their ships. They should be retreating in chaos." Lyraseth had been wondering the same thing. She pulled up records from the Empire's other conquests. In every previous battle, once they destroyed 10 or 20 enemy ships, the rest would flee or surrender. But the humans just kept fighting, kept rotating fresh ships into the battle, kept adapting their tactics. She ran calculations on her tactical computer. The numbers didn't make sense. The humans were losing ships, yes, but not at the rate they should be. For every 3 Valorian ships, they were only destroying 1 human ship. That wasn't how it should work. The Valorians had better weapons, heavier armor, more ships. "Brother, something is very wrong," she said urgently. "We should pull back and reassess." "Absolutely not." Kelthar slammed his fist on the command console. "We're winning. Look at the display. We're pushing them back toward their planet. Victory is within reach." And it was true, in a way. The human defensive line was slowly retreating. Step by step, engagement by engagement, they were falling back toward Earth. But they weren't running. They were conducting a fighting retreat, making the Valorians pay for every meter of space. Admiral Hayes watched the tactical display from the Defiance bridge. The bait fleet was performing perfectly. They had suffered casualties, yes, but acceptable ones. And they had led the Valorian fleet exactly where she wanted them. How long until they reached the trigger point? She asked Lisa Chun. 30 minutes at current speed, Lisa replied. She looked calm, but Hayes could see the tension in her shoulders. Everything depended on the next phase of the plan working. Sophie was coordinating with all 200 human ships, managing the retreat. It was like conducting an orchestra, each ship playing its part in perfect harmony. She had learned this kind of coordination in the academy, but she had never thought she would use it in real combat. All ships begin final phase of withdrawal, she transmitted. Make it look desperate. Act like we're barely holding together. The human ships began retreating faster, firing less accurately. Some of them transmitted damage reports on open channels, making sure the Valorians could intercept them. They acted like a beaten force on the edge of collapse. Kelther took the bait completely. They're breaking. All ships, full speed ahead. We'll crush them before they can reach their planet. The Valorian fleet surged forward, abandoning their careful formations in favor of speed. They wanted to catch the humans before they could escape. 300 warships poured into the space between Jupiter and Mars. Chasing the retreating human fleet, Lyrasith felt ice in her veins. Brother, no. It's too easy. They're leading us somewhere. You're paranoid, Kelther snapped. Can't you see we're winning? But Lyrasith couldn't shake her fear. She looked at her tactical display, studying the space around them, empty, nothing but darkness and distant stars. The human fleet ahead, running scared, and behind them nothing but the void. Except. She zoomed in on her sensors, increasing sensitivity. There, small traces of heat so faint they were almost invisible. Dozens of them, hundreds, all around the Valorian fleet, hidden in the darkness. Oh no, she whispered. Brother, we need to retreat. Right now, what are you talking about? Kelther was annoyed by her constant warnings. Lyrasith grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at her display. Look, heat signatures. Hundreds of them. All around us. We're surrounded. Kelther looked at the screen. For the first time, doubt crossed his face. But our sensors didn't detect anything. The 60 seconds ended. Prince Kelther had not surrendered. He sat frozen in his command chair, unable to speak, unable to make a decision. The tactical display in front of him showed 600 human warships in perfect attack positions. Surrounding his fleet completely, Princess Lyrasith made the decision for him. All ships, combat formation Beta. Prepare to break through the human line. Target their smallest ships and punch a hole. The Valorian fleet tried to respond, but panic had already set in. 300 ships tried to form up, but their formations were sloppy, rushed. Half the commanders were too scared to think clearly. The other half were too proud to accept they had been trapped. Admiral Hayes watched the Valorians scramble on her tactical display. They had chosen to fight. She felt regret for the lives that would be lost, but she had given them a chance. All ships, weapons free? Show them what humanity can do. The human fleet opened fire as one. 600 warships unleashed everything they had. The difference between these weapons and the scout ship weapons was like comparing a thunderstorm to a light rain. Massive railguns fired rounds the size of cars, moving at incredible speeds. Missile pods opened and launched hundreds of smart missiles that could dodge and weave around defenses. Laser arrays, powered by fusion reactors, cut through space with beams that could slice a ship in half. Energy cannons, plasma throwers, particle beams. Humanity had prepared for this moment with every weapon they could imagine. The Valorian shields, which had held up reasonably well against scout ship weapons, collapsed almost immediately. The sheer power hitting them was too much. Ships that had taken hours to damage in the previous battle were now destroyed in minutes. Sophie coordinated the attack from her station, but she barely needed to. Every human captain knew their job. Every crew had trained for this. The tactical doctrine developed over centuries of human warfare was being executed perfectly. Squadron 7, focus fire on the Valorian battleship at Mark 47, she ordered. Squadron 12 cut off their escape route toward the asteroid belt. Captain Morrison led his squadron in a direct assault on the Valorian right flank. The HSS Vigilant was a modern destroyer, fast and deadly. Its weapons tore into Valorian ships, targeting engines and power systems. Morrison fought with cold efficiency, remembering his crew from the Wanderer, remembering Captain Jake Morrison, who had died to give Earth this chance. Target locked. Firing main cannons, his weapons officer reported. The Vigilant's railgun spoke. Massive rounds crossed the distance in seconds, punching through a Valorian cruiser's hull like it was paper. The alien ship exploded, its reactor going critical. Next target, Morrison said calmly. His squadron moved as one, hitting another Valorian ship. They weren't alone. All around the battlefield, human ships were doing the same. Coordinated, precise, deadly. Kyle Martinez worked frantically in the Defiance engineering section. The massive battleship was the flagship, and it was leading the assault. Every weapon system needed power. The shields needed constant reinforcement. The engines needed to keep them positioned perfectly. Reactor 3 is running hot, one of his technicians called out. Reroute cooling from secondary systems, Kyle ordered. Keep that reactor stable. The bridge needs those weapons online. He had learned his trade on the Wanderer, keeping a small scout ship running against impossible odds. Now he was doing the same thing on a ship 50 times larger. The principles were the same. Keep everything running. Find solutions to problems before they became critical. Never give up. The Defiance weapons were firing constantly. Its main railgun could destroy a Valorian ship with a single shot. Its missile pods were launching waves of smart missiles that hunted enemy vessels like wolves hunting prey. Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge, watching the battle unfold, making calm decisions that directed the flow of combat. Enemy formation is collapsing on their left side, Lisa Chun reported. They're trying to concentrate their forces. Don't let them, Hayes ordered. Squadron 20 through 30, hit them from behind. Break their formation completely. The human ships moved with incredible coordination. It was like watching a single organism, not 600 separate vessels. Every ship knew where every other ship was. They never got in each other's way. They covered each other's weaknesses. When one ship needed to retreat for repairs, another smoothly took its place. The Valorians had nothing like this. Their tactics were rigid, based on formations that didn't change. Their commanders expected their subordinates to follow orders exactly, with no creativity or adaptation. Against a weaker enemy, this had always worked. Against humanity, it was a disaster. Prince Kelthar finally found his voice. All ships, focus fire on the largest human vessel. If we destroy their flagship, they'll falter. It was a reasonable strategy. Take out the enemy command ship and hope the others become disorganized. But Larasith knew it wouldn't work. She had been studying human tactics throughout the battle, and she saw the truth. Brother, every human ship is acting independently, she said. They don't need their flagship to coordinate. Look at the data. Each captain is making their own decisions. That's impossible. Kelthar stared at his tactical display. Without central command, they should be in chaos. But they weren't. Human military doctrine was built on something the Valorians didn't understand. Every officer, from the lowest lieutenant to the highest admiral, was trained to think independently, to see the battlefield and make decisions. To work together without needing constant orders from above. It was a doctrine born from centuries of human warfare, refined in conflicts where rigid command structures had failed. The Americans had perfected it, the Europeans had adopted it, the Asian powers had embraced it. By the time humanity reached the stars, it was simply how they fought. The Valorian fleet tried to concentrate on the Defiant, but human ships immediately moved to intercept. They threw themselves between the alien weapons and the flagship. Taking hits meant for Admiral Hayes, but even those hits weren't as effective. As they should be, human ships were designed with redundancy in mind. Every critical system had backups. Every backup had backups. A ship could lose half its weapons and still fight. It could have its engines damaged and still maneuver. Humans built their warships expecting damage, expecting problems, and planning for how to keep fighting anyway. Sophie watched a human cruiser take a direct hit from 3 Valorian ships at once. Its shields collapsed and its hull was torn open. But it didn't die. It kept fighting, its remaining weapons still firing, its crew working to keep it operational. Eventually, it had to retreat, but it had bought time for other ships to destroy its attackers. "That's the HSS Ranger," Sophie said. "They're withdrawing. Dispatch repair ships to meet them." Throughout the battle, human repair ships worked behind the lines, fixing damaged vessels and getting them back into the fight. The Valorians had no such support. Once their ships were damaged, they stayed damaged. The battle raged for 3 hours. 3 hours of continuous combat, ships exploding, weapons firing, tactics evolving in real time. And slowly, inevitably, the Valorian fleet was being destroyed. Lyrasith looked at her tactical display and felt despair. They had lost over 100 ships. The humans had lost maybe 30. The mathematics were clear. They couldn't win this fight. "Brother, we have to retreat," she said urgently. "Order the fleet to scatter. Some of us might escape." For once, Calthor listened. His pride was shattered, his confidence destroyed. He looked at the display showing his dying fleet and finally accepted reality. "All ships retreat. Every vessel for itself. Get out of here." The Valorian formation broke apart completely. Ships fled in all directions, desperate to escape the killing field. Admiral Hayes watched them run and made a decision. "Let them go," she ordered. "We've made our point. Pursue any ships that don't run, but let the others escape." "Ma'am?" Lisa Chun looked surprised. "We could destroy them all." "We could," Hayes agreed. "But I want them to go home. I want them to tell their empire what happened here. I want every alien civilization in this sector to know that attacking humanity was the biggest mistake the Valorians ever made." The human fleet held their positions, watching the Valorians flee. They picked off ships that were too slow or too damaged to escape, but most of the alien fleet was allowed to run. Out of 300 warships that had entered human space, only 90 managed to escape. 210 ships destroyed. Thousands of Valorian lives lost, but Prince Kelthor's flagship was not among those who escaped. Human ships surrounded it, weapons locked on. The flagship had taken heavy damage but was still intact. Admiral Hayes opened a communication channel. "Prince Kelthor, your ship is surrounded. Your fleet has abandoned you. Surrender now, and I guarantee the safety of you and your crew." On the Valorian flagship, Kelthor sat in his damaged command chair, covered in dust and blood from injuries across his body. He looked at his sister, who was operating a tactical console because the officer who should be there was dead. "What do I do?" he asked her, his voice broken. Lyrasith looked at her proud brother, now reduced to this. She felt pity and anger. Pity for what he had become. Anger that he hadn't listened to her warnings. "You surrender. You save the lives of everyone still alive on this ship." 2 weeks after the battle, a Valorian diplomatic ship approached Earth under a flag of truce. It carried Prince Kelthor, Princess Lyrasith, and the survivors from the captured flagship. The human fleet watched it carefully, weapons ready but not aimed. Admiral Hayes had given her word they would be returned safely. And humanity kept its promises. On the bridge of the Defiant, Sophie watched the diplomatic ship prepare to leave. She had spent some time talking with Princess Lyrasith during the 2 weeks. The Valorian princess was smart, thoughtful, and deeply troubled by what had happened. "Your people are remarkable," Lyrasith had said during one of their conversations. "We studied 17 civilizations before adding them to our empire. None of them fought like you do. None of them had your level of organization, your technology, your determination." "Maybe they could have," Sophie replied. "Maybe they just never got the chance. You conquered them before they could show their strength." Lyrasith had no answer to that. The thought seemed to weigh on her now as the diplomatic ship prepared to depart. Admiral Hayes met with the Valorian royals one final time. Commander Lisa Chun and General Peter Collins were also present, representing Earth's military leadership. "We're sending you home with a message," Hayes said. A formal communication to your emperor. It outlines our terms for peace. Prince Kelthar, still looking haunted by his defeat, nodded. I will deliver it personally. The terms are simple, Lisa Chun explained. The Valorian Empire recognizes human territory as sovereign and off-limits. All star systems within 50 light-years of Earth are now under human protection. If any Valorian ship enters this zone without permission, it will be considered an act of war. 50 light-years? Kelthar looked shocked. That includes 6 systems that currently belong to the Empire. Those systems are now independent, General Collins said firmly. You will withdraw your forces and allow them to govern themselves. We'll be checking to make sure you comply. The Empire will never agree to this, Kelthar protested weakly. The Empire will agree, Hayes said, because the alternative is war. Real war, not an invasion fleet that we destroy. Not a border skirmish. Total war with every human military asset deployed against your homeworld. Do you want that? The silence that followed was answer enough. Kelthar had seen what 600 human warships could do. The thought of thousands more attacking his home planet was terrifying. Princess Lyrasith spoke quietly. We will recommend that the Emperor accept your terms. After what happened here, I believe he will agree. The Valorian ship departed, carrying its cargo of humbled royals and a message that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. As it disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Admiral Hayes turned to her officers. Phase 2 begins now, she said. We need to reach out to those 6 systems the Valorians controlled. Offer them protection, trade, alliance. Show them that humanity is different from the empire that conquered them. Over the next month, human diplomatic ships visited the 6 star systems. They found worlds that have been under Valorian control for decades, their populations suppressed, their resources extracted. The arrival of human ships offering freedom and protection was met with a mix of hope and suspicion. Captain Morrison led one of the diplomatic missions to a world called Talos Prime. The native species were called the Telosians, beings that looked like tall, slender reptiles with bright blue scales. They had been conquered by the Valorians 40 years ago. Why should we trust you? Asked Elder Nyx, the leader of the Telosian government in exile. The Valorians came offering protection too. Then they enslaved us. Morrison understood the suspicion. He would feel the same way. We're not asking you to trust us immediately. We're offering you freedom to choose. If you want the Valorians to leave but don't want human presence either, that's your choice. We'll respect it. And if we want an alliance? Nyx asked carefully. Then we'll work out terms that benefit both our peoples. Trade, mutual defense, cultural exchange. But it will be a partnership, not subjugation. Morrison pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's constitution. These are the principles our civilization was built on. Freedom, self-determination, mutual respect. We've fought wars among ourselves to protect these principles. We're not going to abandon them now. The Telosians debated for days. Finally, they agreed to a treaty. The Valorian occupation forces withdrew, and human ships took up defensive positions around Talos Prime, not as conquerors, but as guardians. Similar scenes played out across the other 5 systems. Some agreed to formal alliances. Others chose independence but accepted human protection. All of them were grateful to be free of Valorian rule. On Earth, the mood was celebratory but cautious. Humanity had won its first war against an alien civilization, but everyone understood this was just the beginning. The galaxy was huge, and the Valorian Empire was just one power among many. Sophie was promoted again to the rank of commander. She was given command of a new ship, the HSS Wanderer II, built to honor the original vessel and its crew. It was still a scout ship, but larger and more advanced than its predecessor. Kyle Martinez became the chief engineer, of course. Most of the original Wanderer crew requested transfers to serve under Sophie again. They were a family, bonded by their shared experience of being the first humans to fight aliens. Feels right, being on a ship called Wanderer again, Kyle said as they toured the new vessel. Though I have to admit, this one is a lot nicer. Sophie laughed. Better engines, better weapons, better quarters. But same mission. We're still scouts. Still, the ones who go out first and see what's out there. Think we'll run into more hostile aliens? Kyle asked. Probably, Sophie said honestly. The galaxy is a big place. But now everyone will know what happens when you attack humanity. Word spreads fast in space. She was right. The story of the Valorian invasion spread throughout known space faster than any ship could travel. The tale of how 300 warships were defeated by a civilization that had only recently achieved faster than light travel became legend on the Valorian homeworld. Emperor Vexener received his son's report with cold fury. The loss of 200 ships was a disaster. The loss of prestige was even worse. The Valorian Empire had built its reputation on being unstoppable conquerors. Now they had been stopped, decisively, by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Father, I take full responsibility, Kelthar said, kneeling before the throne. I failed you and the Empire? You did, the Emperor agreed coldly. But you also learned a valuable lesson. There are predators in this galaxy more dangerous than us. We must adapt or die. Princess Lyrasith stood beside her brother. Father, I recommend we accept the human terms and focus on internal development. We spent centuries conquering weaker civilizations. Perhaps it's time we learned from a stronger one. The Emperor considered this. His empire was built on military strength, but that strength had proven insufficient. The humans had shown a level of military sophistication the Valorians couldn't match. Perhaps there were other things they could learn. Very well, he said finally. We will accept the treaty. We will withdraw from the disputed systems. And we will study these humans. Learn from them. And perhaps one day we will be strong enough to challenge them again. Lyrasith felt a chill. Her father still thought in terms of conquest and challenge. He hadn't learned the real lesson, but she said nothing. Some lessons could only be learned through experience, and the Valorians had paid a heavy price for theirs. Across the galaxy, other civilizations watched and took notes. The Kaleri Federation, a peaceful alliance of trading worlds, immediately sent diplomatic envoys to Earth. They saw in humanity a potential ally, a strong power that could help maintain peace. The Drexen Unity, a militant empire similar to the Valorians, took a different lesson. They saw humanity as a threat and began building up their military, preparing for a potential conflict. And the ancient Xyler Collective, beings of pure energy who had existed for millions of years, simply observed with interest. They had seen countless civilizations rise and fall. Humanity was young, aggressive, but showed promise. Time would tell what they would become. On Earth, Admiral Hayes stood in front of the United Earth Council, giving her report on the war and its aftermath. The council chamber was filled with representatives from every nation and colony. We achieved our objectives, she concluded. We defended Earth, we destroyed the invasion fleet. We established humanity as a major power in the region. And we freed 6 worlds from oppression. What about casualties? Asked one counselor. 32 ships destroyed. 843 personnel killed in action. Another 2,000 wounded. Hayes paused. Every loss is tragic, but it could have been much worse. If we hadn't prepared, if we hadn't developed our military, the Valorians would have conquered Earth. The council debated the implications for hours. Some argued for demilitarization now that the threat was past. Others argued for even more military spending to prepare for future threats. Eventually, a compromise was reached. Earth would maintain its military strength but also invest heavily in diplomacy and exploration. The goal was to be strong enough to defend themselves but wise enough to avoid unnecessary conflicts. Commander Lisa Shun was put in charge of a new project, the First Contact Protocol.